Hello, Wolfpack families. Again, this video is going to cover the many questions that were submitted as part of the parent form given out earlier in the month. Unfortunately, the school board meeting was postponed to exactly the same time that we were going to do a live recording to address these questions, but we'll push that off into a future month where we'll do another live recording for questions. For this time, we are going to have a recorded video in response to the questions, which I've listed out below and we'll be covering now. You can also include the captions below. We'll put the directions in Parent Square for how to do the captions, as well as if you need to change the specific language for those captions as well. So first I want to talk about food. We received several questions about food, and rather than me address that, I've actually reached out to Chef Devinder Kumar, who will be hopefully providing a video and some response to the questions and concerns provided about the food services, knowing that we do provide fresh meals from scratch, many coming from ingredients out in the garden as well, in order to provide the healthiest lunch, breakfast, and supper possible. I will share that video and that information from him as soon as it becomes available. Now, the next topic, some of you asked about basic skills and where we're putting in things like balancing a checkbook or having a savings account and issues kind of around basic adult, what we call like literacy for life. For those, we're integrating those into our advisory classrooms and our advisory structure. Already we have built in financial literacy, where we started talking about checking and savings account. We've started talking about interest rate. And throughout the whole year, we're going to continue to implement those types of adult literacy skills into our advisory, which as students continue with us at the younger ages, they're going to get more and more of those each year as we continue to build upon our advisory programming. So some of the things you're looking for, we're going to be covering during those advisory class times. If there are specific things you want us to cover, you can please feel free to reach out via email, and we'll see about including those through our advisory block structure. The next topic is around vaccinations. Many of people have asked about students being required vaccinations. I would say right now all options are being considered to maintain a safe and orderly campus for all students and staff and our extended families. One thing to note is that Governor Newsom did just sign the mandate for K-12 student vaccinations for as early as next fall. So that is in the pipeline and that is in the works as a state and potentially down the road even all states across the nation. We'll have to see how that plays out. But for right now, we know that as early as fall, vaccinations could be required for all students to remain on campus. We will continue our research and continue looking at how that may impact students this year as well. But for the foremost thing I would say is that vaccinations have been proven to limit the spread of the Delta variant as well as other variants of COVID. And our job right now is to increase safety amongst all students and staff on campus. Next one was about sports. Had some questions about what sports were available, who is coaching. I've gone ahead and reached out to Ms. Herrera, who is our athletic director. She's going to be working with our family coordinator in order to create a brochure or perhaps a website, we're unsure at this point, that is going to be able to provide all of that information to families. This way you understand what sports we have, when those seasons are, who the coaches are, and additional information around athletics. So be looking for a sports brochure to come through in the coming weeks or month ahead as we get into the winter season. I think that's a great idea. So this is one of the amazing things about doing this process is y'all give us questions and feedback, which allow us to do the job even better to support the whole community. We did have one question around lunchtime, and I wanted to address this directly from my own observations. So lunch is 35 minutes. I would say from my own observations at the longest it takes is around 11 to 12 minutes to get through the lunch line, and that's if you're the very last person in the lunch line. I would say since lunch has been moved outside rather than the kind of get your own food in Harvest Hall process, it is even faster because students essentially go through the line, they get their box, they check out, and then they can go and eat. So with that, most of the time we're hitting around like the majority of the campus is through lunch lines around 10 minutes or so. So with that, if students are saying that they are not having enough time to eat lunch, it's probably more around they don't have enough time to socialize. We do see many students who get their lunch and then they sit down around the planters on concrete or at the desk in the quad here. And they do a lot of talking, perhaps playing some games. And so, yes, maybe they don't have enough time to eat, but that's because unlike traditional school where we would all be in Harvest Hall and all eating together, there is more access for students to have more freedom of choice during this time. And so if students are not saying they have enough time to eat, it's probably because they're using that time for something else and not enough time to actually eat during those 35-minute time frames. The next one's around chronic conditions for students learning at home. At this time, we do have an independent study program, but those are reserved to specific medical needs by families, as well as home hospital, which requires further documentation from your medical provider. Other than that, students are required to be in person and on campus. As we've seen, safety-wise, at this time, I'm going to knock on wood here, but we have seen a limited to no community spread on our campus for sure. And with that, we believe that being in person is the best academically for students. It's the best socially, emotionally for students. And safety-wise, we can provide additional safety measures for students and families while they are on campus. That could change down the road, but unlike other schools, that is our process and approach to the current ongoing pandemic. Next would be field trips. At this time, we are not taking field trips. There are a lot of rules and regulations in place around field trips, and we just feel that until things kind of calm down again, maybe to back to where they were in June or July, we put a pause on field trips, but those could quickly reemerge. Now, with that being said, we are looking in October. Hopefully, if you looked at our October calendar month, to increase the amount of school events on campus that will bring some of that fun and some of that joy to our students rather than field trips right now as they are paused across the board. We have additionally invested and received donations, thank you, Mrs. Resnick, for virtual field trips. And so some of our advisory groups will be going on virtual field trips throughout winter of this first semester. Okay, the last two questions I received, one is around Chromebook access. So as a high school, we received some comments, including from students, around having additional time at night for Chromebook usage. We've gone ahead and bumped back Chromebooks usage to midnight, and we feel like that is still acceptable, except for those that are in multiple BC classes or additional college classes and need that additional time every once in a while to use their Chromebook to prepare for an exam or finish a paper. But we do believe that most students should be finished with work roughly by like 10 p.m. And that's if they've been, doing dishes, helping cook and clean, hanging out with their friends, a little bit online, playing video games, and still doing their homework. They should be fine to get in bed early enough. Now, if you're taking a significant amount of BC classes or you're having to work on Play-Doh courses that you didn't get credit for, that's where you may need that additional time. Just know that those devices, even if it will be up until midnight, are still being monitored by GoGuardian. And that means that we are still getting the alerts for what students are seeing, watching, hearing, searching on their Chromebooks during that time. And so that could produce, for some of students that are misusing it, restrictions where we would further restrict the Chromebook access at night, as well as access to websites. And we will do that as we see fit whenever we come across issues with students misusing technology according to the handbook. Now, the last one is about stair usage during the time. Now, just as a reminder that exposure to COVID-19 is 15 minutes or longer and under 6 feet without both people wearing masks. Some people have brought up concerns about the number of students or number of people that are on stairs going up and down. That isn't posing a significant health concern at this time. We have mask wearing. Every student who is concerned about should definitely be wearing their mask above their nose and below their chin. And students do not spend anywhere near 15 minutes on the stairs. At max, it might be 2 minutes at max from what I've seen. I've gone out and timed some of them, but students are not spending close enough time on stairs to have any risk of exposure to their movement on the stairways. Now, in relation to tardies, students have 5 minutes for most of the transitions, and for our 2 breaks in the day, they have significant amount of time, which is where we're seeing most of the tardies. So these breaks are, 15-ish minutes. Most students are outside with their friends. They're waiting until the tardy bell rings, which means they only have 1 minute to get to class, which is where we normally see some of the traffic holding up students from getting to class on time. As I remind everybody, is those times between classes is time to use the restroom, maybe work on any assignments or get organized, and then make your way to your next class. We do appreciate that students are using it to, move around, talk with their friends, and socialize. But the majority of that is solely for, kind of using the bathroom, going to see any teachers or going to see anyone you might need for forms, and then getting to your next class. 5 minutes is plenty of time for those other 2 transitions to get from any point on campus to the other point, unless you're walking slowly or you happen to be going anywhere else across that board with friends, or going to see a teacher, or hanging out in a place maybe we shouldn't be. Those are producing some of those tardies as well. So at this time, those were the bulk of the questions in those categories. I appreciate all you for submitting those questions, and we'll continue this process in another month or 2. So thank you, Wolfpack family, and so long.